I remember the excitement bubbling in my chest as I carefully arranged the silverware on the dining table. Every fork, knife, and spoon had to be perfect, just like the announcement I was planning to make that night. After years of working under someone else, always being told to dim my light, I had finally done it. I'd started my own marketing company. My fingers trembled slightly as I adjusted the centerpiece, a small arrangement of white roses and eucalyptus that reminded me of new beginnings. The aroma of rosemary chicken filled the apartment, mingling with the scent of freshly baked bread and the subtle sweetness of the apple tart cooling on the kitchen counter. I'd spent 3 days preparing this dinner, wanting everything to be special when I shared my news. The apartment had never looked better. I'd cleaned every surface until it gleamed, arranged fresh flowers in the entryway, and even splurged on new dining chairs, an investment for the future dinner parties I imagined hosting as a successful business owner. The thought made me smile as I lit the candles, their warm glow reflecting in the polished glasses I'd set out for the wine. "They'll be so proud," I whispered to myself, smoothing down the crisp tablecloth one last time. My family had always been successful. My father with his accounting firm, my brother following in his footsteps, and my sister with her thriving dental practice. I was always the dreamer, the one they exchanged glances about when I spoke of my big ideas. Tonight would be different. Tonight, I would show them I could be successful too. Just in my own way, I took one final glance at myself in the mirror. I'd chosen a simple black dress, professional but also celebratory. My hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, and I'd applied makeup with a careful hand. I looked like someone who belonged in a boardroom, someone to be taken seriously. The doorbell rang at 7 p.m. sharp. My father was always punctual. "Emma." My mother embraced me tightly, the familiar scent of her perfume enveloping me. "The place smells wonderful." My father gave me a quick pat on the shoulder, his eyes already scanning my apartment. Traffic was terrible, but we made it. Behind them, my brother Mike and his wife Lisa entered, followed by my sister Rachel. They each handed me a bottle of wine, all the same brand my father always bought, regardless of the occasion. "Sorry we're late," Rachel said, though they weren't. "Had to finish up with a patient. You know how it is in healthcare. Emergencies don't wait." I nodded, though I didn't really know. My work had always seemed less urgent in their eyes, less important. I ushered them to the living room, where I'd set out a cheese board and wine. My hands shook slightly as I poured each glass, but no one seemed to notice. They were already deep in conversation about my father's golf game and Mike's recent promotion. "So, Dad, have you thought about that expansion to the West Coast?" Mike asked, settling into my couch with the comfort of someone who knew his place in the world. "The market research looks promising. We're considering it," my father replied, his voice carrying the weight of authority it always had. "But these things need careful planning. Can't just jump in because something seems promising." I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, the subtle reminder that careful planning was essential, that jumping into things was foolish. I wondered what they'd think of my jump into entrepreneurship. "So," my mother said, taking a small bite of cheese, "what's the special occasion, Emma? Your message seemed important." 5 pairs of eyes turned to me expectantly. I felt my palms grow damp. "Let's wait until dinner. I want to share everything properly." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You're not pregnant, are you?" "What?" "No." I felt my face flush. "Nothing like that." "Well, thank goodness," my mother sighed. "After that disaster with Stephen last year, the last thing you need is a baby." I bit my tongue. Stephen had been my fiancé until he decided he wasn't ready for marriage, a week before our wedding. My family never failed to bring it up, as if I needed reminding of my biggest heartbreak and embarrassment. "Actually, Mom," Lisa interjected gently, "I think we agreed not to bring up Stephen anymore." She shot me a sympathetic smile. I smiled back gratefully. Lisa had always been kind to me, Perhaps because as an in-law, she understood what it felt like to be somewhat outside the family's inner circle. When we moved to the dining table, the conversation flowed as I served the appetizers. Roasted tomato soup with basil oil, my father's favorite. I'd practiced the menu meticulously, choosing dishes everyone loved. "This is delicious, Emma," Lisa said. "You've always been such a good cook." "Thanks." I smiled, grateful for her warmth. "I've been experimenting with new recipes lately." "She gets that from Grandma," my mother said, stirring her soup. "Remember those Sunday dinners? No one could roast a chicken like her." I nodded, though I was only 8 when my grandmother passed away. What I remembered most was how she'd sit me on the counter while she cooked, telling me I could be anything I wanted to be. I wondered what she'd think of me now. My father glanced at his watch. "Mike, didn't you say Collins approached you about that new client? The tech company?" And just like that, the conversation shifted back to business. Their business. I served the main course, watching as they enjoyed the food I'd prepared while barely acknowledging me except to ask for salt or more wine. "Actually," I said during a brief lull, my heart racing, "I wanted to tell you all something." 5 pairs of eyes turned to me again. I took a deep breath. "I've started my own company, a boutique marketing firm, focusing on sustainable brands." My voice grew stronger with each word. "I've already signed 3 clients, and we're launching next month. Well, actually, we've already soft launched. We have an office downtown." The silence that followed felt heavy, like the moment before a storm. My father set down his fork. "A marketing firm? Emma, those fail all the time. The market is saturated." "I've done my research, Dad. I've found a niche that's underserved. Sustainable brands need specialized marketing that understands their values and their audience. It's not just about pushing products. It's about building genuine connections." "That sounds lovely in theory," Rachel said, twirling her wine glass. "But how does that translate to profits?" "Our first 3 clients are already paying competitive rates," I replied, trying to keep the defensiveness out of my voice. "And we have a lean operation, so our overhead is low." "How are you funding this?" Mike interrupted, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. "I've been saving for years," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And I took out a small business loan. My credit score is excellent, and the bank was impressed with my business plan." My mother's eyes widened. "A loan? Emma, you're still paying off your master's degree." "Which I'm handling just fine," I countered. "This is something I've planned carefully. I didn't just decide this overnight." "Is this because of what happened at your last job?" my father asked. "Because quitting over one disagreement with your boss was impulsive enough. Starting a whole company seems like an extreme reaction." I felt my jaw tighten. "It wasn't one disagreement, Dad. He took credit for an entire campaign that Diane and I created, a campaign that brought in their biggest client of the year. And when we tried to address it, we were told to be team players." "That's how the corporate world works sometimes," Mike said with a shrug. "You have to pay your dues." "By letting someone else take credit for my work?" I set down my glass harder than intended. "That's not paying dues. That's being taken advantage of." Rachel sighed. "Remember when you wanted to open that boutique after college? Or that food blog you were so excited about for a month? You have so many ideas, Emma. But you never seem to stick with anything long enough to see if it works." My cheeks burned. "This is different. I have experience now, connections." "In someone else's company," my father interjected. "Running your own business is entirely different. There are taxes, payroll, insurance, client acquisition costs, marketing your own marketing firm." "I know all that," I interrupted, something I rarely did with my father. "I've spent the last year researching, planning, networking. I've consulted with successful agency owners. I've taken classes on business management. This isn't a whim." "We just don't want to see you get hurt again," my mother said, reaching for my hand across the table. "After Stephen, and then that job you lost." "I didn't lose that job," I said, pulling my hand away. "I quit because my boss took credit for my campaign." "There's a difference." My father sighed. "You've always been so sensitive, Emma. Business requires a thick skin." "Being sensitive to injustice isn't a weakness," I replied quietly. "In fact, it's what makes our agency special. We really care about our clients' missions. We're not just in it for the money." "Everyone needs money, sweetheart," my father said in that patronizing tone he'd used since I was a child. "Idealism doesn't pay the bills." I pushed back my chair and stood up, collecting the plates with shaking hands. "Our clients pay the bills, Dad, and they seem to value what we bring to the table." "I'm sure they do, honey," my mother said soothingly. "We just worry. That's what parents do." I nodded stiffly. "Dessert will be out in a minute," I managed to say, retreating to the kitchen. As I plated the chocolate soufflés I'd spent all afternoon perfecting, I heard their muffled conversation. She'll come to her senses once she realizes how hard it is. At least she has her job to fall back on. Should we offer to help? Financially, I mean. That would just enable this fantasy. I gripped the counter, fighting back tears. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. In my mind, they'd be excited, supportive, maybe even proud. I took a deep breath, determined to finish the evening with dignity. When I returned to the dining room, I froze in the doorway. My mother was putting on her coat. My father was standing, keys in hand. "I'm so sorry, sweetie," my mother said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Your father just got a call from his partner, something about a client emergency. You know how it is." I stood there, holding a tray of soufflés that had already begun to sink. "But dessert?" "Rain check?" Rachel said, gathering her purse. "I have an early morning tomorrow anyway." Mike at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "The dinner was great, Em. Really." "We should do lunch soon," my father said, checking his watch again. "To talk more about this business venture of yours. I have some suggestions that might help." One by one they filed out, each with a different excuse. A client emergency, an early morning, a babysitter who couldn't stay late. Lisa was the last to leave, lingering in the doorway. "I think it's brave," she whispered, giving my arm a squeeze. "What you're doing." Then she was gone too, and the door closed behind them, leaving me standing in my carefully decorated apartment, surrounded by the remnants of a celebration that never happened. I placed the tray on the table and sank into my chair. The candles were still burning, casting long shadows across the empty seats. I'd spent days preparing everything, the table, the dinner, even the speech I never got to finish. They had eaten, smiled politely, and left before dessert. The soufflés collapsed completely as tears began to roll down my cheeks. I sat at that table for what felt like hours, staring at the empty chairs where my family had been. The candles burned lower, wax pooling on my carefully chosen tablecloth. I didn't move to clean it up. For once, I let the mess remain. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Sorry to rush out. Call me tomorrow. We should talk about this business idea properly. Love you." Business idea. As if it weren't already real. As if I hadn't spent the last year planning, saving, networking, and building something I believed in. Something that was already taking shape, with a real office and real clients who believed in what we were doing. I picked up one of the fallen soufflés and tasted it. It was delicious, rich and chocolatey with just the right amount of sweetness. I'd spent hours getting the recipe perfect, just like I'd spent months perfecting my business plan. And just like the dinner, no one had stayed to appreciate it. The realization that settled over me wasn't new, but it felt more solid now, more real. My family would never see me as their equal. In their eyes, I would always be the dreamer, the sensitive one, the one who needed guidance and protection from her own ideas. The knowledge hurt, but there was also something freeing about finally accepting it. I finally stood up, gathering plates with mechanical movements. As I rinsed each dish, watching remnants of my celebration swirl down the drain, a strange calm settled over me. This wasn't the first time my family had dismissed my dreams, but something felt different tonight. Maybe it was because, for the first time, I didn't need their approval to move forward. My company, Evergreen Marketing, already existed. I had a small office downtown, 3 clients who believed in my vision, and a business partner who hadn't been able to attend tonight, Diane, a brilliant strategist I'd met at my previous job, who'd quit alongside me when our boss had stolen our campaign. "Your family's going to be so impressed," Diane had said when we signed our first client, a small but growing skincare company committed to plastic-free packaging. I hadn't told her then that my family didn't even know about Evergreen yet. I'd wanted to wait until we had something tangible to show them. Now I realized that nothing would ever be tangible enough. No achievement would ever convince them that my path was valid. I sent Diane a text. "Dinner didn't go well. Talk tomorrow." Then I turned off my phone, took a long shower, and fell into bed, emotionally exhausted. The next morning, I woke with swollen eyes, but a clear mind. I dressed carefully in my favorite navy suit, applied makeup to hide the evidence of my tears, and headed to the office. Our space was small, just 2 rooms above a coffee shop, but it was ours. The walls were freshly painted white, with one accent wall in deep green. Plants dotted every available surface, reinforcing our commitment to sustainable brands. The smell of fresh coffee greeted me as I climbed the stairs. Diane was already there, typing furiously on her laptop. She looked up when I entered, her expression shifting from concentration to concern. "You look like hell," she said bluntly, then softened. "How'd it go last night? Family celebration a success?" I set down my bag and poured myself coffee from the small machine in the corner. "They left before dessert." Diane's eyebrows shot up. "What?" "Apparently, a marketing firm is just another one of Emma's phases." I made air quotes with my fingers, trying to laugh but feeling the sting all over again. My father got a client emergency call right before dessert. Everyone else suddenly had somewhere to be too. Diane's face darkened. "That's... wow. I'm sorry, Emma. I know how much that dinner meant to you." I shrugged, trying to appear more nonchalant than I felt. "It's fine. I should have expected it. They've never really believed in me. Their loss, and completely irrelevant to what we're building here." She gestured to the mood boards lining one wall, showcasing our vision for our first 3 clients. "And speaking of building, Terrence from Everleaf Skincare called this morning. He loves the campaign concept." For the first time since last night, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Everleaf was our biggest client, a sustainable skincare line that was gaining traction among conscious consumers. "He did?" Said it was exactly what they needed to break into the broader market without compromising their values. Diane handed me a printout of his email, and he mentioned his friend at Harvest Home. You know, that new eco-friendly furniture company? They're looking for marketing support for their launch next quarter. I scanned the email, my heart lifting with each word of praise. "This is amazing." "Yeah, well, turns out you actually do know what you're doing," Diane said with a smirk. "Despite what certain family members might think." She hesitated, then added more gently, "You okay?" I considered the question for a moment. "Not really, but I will be. This helps." I gestured to Terrence's email. Real validation from people who get what we're trying to do. Diane nodded. "That's the only kind that matters anyway." We spent the day finalizing the Everleaf campaign, our energy building as each element came together. By evening, when I should have been exhausted, I felt invigorated. On impulse, I called Melissa Chen, a journalist I'd met at a networking event who covered small businesses for a local magazine. "Emma, how are you?" Her voice was warm through the phone. "Great, actually. Remember how I mentioned I was starting my own firm? Well, we're officially launched, and I thought our focus might interest you. Sustainable brands only, with a commitment to authentic messaging." There was a pause, then. "Actually, that's perfect timing. I'm working on a feature about the rise of purpose-driven marketing firms. Any chance you'd be free for an interview tomorrow? Maybe around 11? I could come to your office." I glanced at our schedule. We had a client call at 10, but nothing after that. "Tomorrow at 11 would be perfect." "Great, and bring any samples of your work. I'd love to see your approach." After hanging up, I shared the news with Diane, who let out an excited whoop. "That's Business East, Emma. They have a huge readership in the industry." "It's probably just a small mention in a larger piece," I cautioned, not wanting to get my hopes up. But any publicity helps at this stage. That night, as I walked home, I passed the Italian restaurant where my family always celebrated special occasions. Through the window I could see them, my parents, Mike and Lisa, Rachel, all gathered at our usual corner table. Rachel was gesturing animatedly, everyone laughing at whatever story she was telling. My father had his arms slung casually over my mother's chair, looking more relaxed than he had at my dinner. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, watching them through the glass. They looked happy, comfortable, complete, without me. Had they planned this dinner before or after leaving my celebration? Had they discussed my business idea over appetizers, shaking their heads at my latest fantasy? A couple brushed past me, breaking my trance. I turned and continued home, a hollow feeling in my chest. But underneath the hurt, there was something else, a steely resolve. If they couldn't see my worth, I would show them. Not because I needed their approval, but because I needed them to know they had been wrong about me. The next day, Melissa arrived at our office precisely at 11. She was stylishly dressed in a gray pantsuit, her notebook already open as she took in our modest space. "I love what you've done with it," she said, running a hand along our moss wall, a sustainable alternative to artwork that required no maintenance. Very on brand. The interview lasted nearly 2 hours. Melissa was thorough, asking about our backgrounds, our philosophy, our approach to client work. She seemed particularly interested in why we'd chosen to focus exclusively on sustainable brands. "It's not just a marketing angle for us," I explained, passion rising in my voice. "We believe businesses have a responsibility to do better for the planet. Our clients are committed to that mission, and we help them communicate it authentically." Diane nodded. "There's too much greenwashing in the industry. Brands slapping eco-friendly on their products without substantive changes. Our clients are different. They build sustainability into their business models from the ground up." Melissa scribbled furiously in her notebook. "And what about your previous experience? I understand you both came from Crawford and Marsh?" I exchanged a glance with Diane. "We did. We learned a lot there, but ultimately, we wanted to create something that aligned more closely with our values." "And they weren't supportive of that vision?" Melissa probed. "Let's just say we had creative differences," Diane replied diplomatically. After she left, Diane and I exchanged cautiously optimistic glances. "That went well," I ventured. "Better than well," Diane agreed. She asked real questions, not just fluff. "And did you see how much she wrote down? That's a good sign. Now we just need to keep the momentum going." And we did. Over the next 2 weeks, we barely left the office. We refined our pitches, created comprehensive decks for potential clients, and pushed the Everleaf campaign into production. I declined my mother's increasingly persistent calls, sending brief texts instead. "Super busy with the business. We'll call when things slow down." The truth was, I wasn't ready to hear more doubts or dismissals. Not when we were signing a fourth client, a small brewery that used regenerative agriculture for their ingredients. Not when we were hiring our first employee, a social media whiz named Zach, who shared our commitment to authentic messaging. Not when everything was finally falling into place. My family's doubts still echoed in my mind, but they grew fainter with each small success. Every client approval, every positive comment on our social media, every meeting where someone looked at me with respect instead of condescension. They all helped quiet the voices telling me I would fail. 15 days after my disastrous family dinner, I walked into the corner store near our office to grab lunch. As I waited in line, my gaze fell on the magazine rack. There, on the cover of Business East, was our logo, and beneath it, a photo of Diane and me, standing proudly in our little office. The headline read, "The Green Revolution: How Two Women Are Redefining Marketing for Sustainable Brands." My hands shook as I grabbed a copy, quickly paying before stepping outside to call Diane. "Have you seen it?" I asked the moment she answered. "Seen what?" "The new issue of Business East. We're on the cover, Diane. The cover." Her shriek of excitement made me hold the phone away from my ear. "Are you serious? I thought Melissa was just doing a small feature." "Apparently not." I stared at our faces on the glossy paper, barely believing it was real. "I'm bringing a copy to the office now." As I hurried back, I flipped to the article. It was 6 pages, a comprehensive profile of our agency, our mission, and the growing market for authentic, sustainable marketing. Melissa had quoted us extensively, positioning us as thought leaders in a niche that was rapidly expanding. She'd even included quotes from our clients, all of them glowing. "Evergreen understands our mission at a fundamental level," Terrence from Everleaf was quoted saying. "They don't just market our products, they help us communicate our values in a way that resonates with our customers." When I burst into the office, Diane was already dancing around our small conference table, her own copy of the magazine open in front of her. "We did it!" she shouted, grabbing my hands and pulling me into her impromptu celebration. "We actually did it!" Zach, our new social media manager, was already crafting posts announcing the feature. Our office phone was ringing, the first of many calls that day from potential clients who had seen the article. The magazine coverage changed everything. By the end of the week, we had meetings scheduled with 7 potential new clients. 2 more local publications requested interviews. A prominent business podcast invited us to be guests. We were even approached about potentially speaking at an upcoming conference on sustainable business practices. In the midst of the whirlwind, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Just saw Business East. Call me?" Then one from Mike. "Congrats on the magazine, Em. Impressive." My mother called 3 times, leaving increasingly urgent voicemails. My father sent an uncharacteristically long email about how sometimes the best businesses are born from unconventional thinking, and how proud he was of my entrepreneurial spirit. I read each message with a strange detachment, remembering the empty chairs at my table, the collapsed soufflés, the dismissive comments. 2 weeks ago, they couldn't even stay for dessert. Now, they wanted to celebrate my success. As I sat in our office watching Diane coordinate with our new clients, I realized something profound had shifted inside me. For the first time in my life, I didn't crave my family's approval. I didn't need their validation to know my worth. That evening, I finally returned my mother's call. "Emma, we've been trying to reach you for days." Her voice was bright, excited. "Your father and I saw the magazine. It's wonderful, sweetie. We're so proud." I let the silence stretch for a moment. "Thanks, Mom." "We always knew you had it in you," she continued, as if rewriting history. "You've always been so creative, but not business-minded," I said quietly. "That's what Dad said at dinner, right before you all left." Another pause. "Oh, Emma, we were just concerned. Parents worry, you know that." I picked up the magazine on my desk, looking at my own face smiling back at me. "I've been worried too, Mom. Worried about paying rent for the office, about making payroll, about delivering for our clients. But I didn't have anyone to talk to about those worries, because the people who should have supported me from the beginning didn't believe I could do this. That's not fair, Emma. It is fair, I interrupted gently. You left before dessert, Mom. Before I could even finish telling you about something that mattered to me. And then you went to dinner at Vincenzo's without me. A sharp intake of breath on the other end. You saw us? I walked past on my way home. The silence stretched again, longer this time. We're sorry, Emma. We should have stayed. We should have listened. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of years of seeking their approval, of trying to make them see me. Yes, you should have. Can we make it up to you? Her voice was smaller now. Your father wants to have a celebration dinner at Vincenzo's. The whole family. To toast your success. I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let them feel the sting of rejection as I had. But another part recognized that this was a chance for something to change between us. I'll think about it, I said finally. But right now, I need to focus on the business. We're getting a lot of interest after the article. Of course, just let us know when you're free. After hanging up, I stood at the window of our office, looking out at the city as the evening lights began to flicker on. I thought about my family's sudden interest now that I'd proven myself, about the bitter satisfaction of finally having their attention. But mostly, I thought about how much lighter I felt, having realized that their approval was no longer the measure of my success. My phone pinged with an email from a potential new client, a major player in sustainable fashion interested in our services. I smiled, turning back to my desk. The family dinner could wait. I had work to do. 3 weeks after the magazine cover, Evergreen Marketing was a different place. We'd moved from our modest 2-room office to a larger space in the same building, taking over the entire 3rd floor with floor-to-ceiling windows and enough room for our growing team. What had started as just Diane and me, then expanded to include Zach, had now grown to a staff of 8. 2 more account managers, a graphic designer, a content writer, and an office manager who kept us all organized. The phone rang constantly. Our inbox overflowed with inquiries. We'd had to create a wait list for new clients, something I never imagined would happen so quickly. Emma, the Harvest Home team is here for their 10 o'clock, our office manager Tara announced, poking her head into my new private office. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing our quarterly projections. The numbers were better than we'd dared to hope. Thanks, Tara. I'll be right out. As I gathered my materials for the meeting, I caught a glimpse of the Business East cover, now framed on my wall. I'd put it there not as a trophy, but as a reminder that validation could come from places you didn't expect, and sometimes not from the places you wanted it most. I still hadn't accepted my mother's invitation for a celebration dinner. Each time she called, I found a reason to postpone. Client deadlines, business travel, staff training. The truth was, I wasn't sure I wanted to sit across from them and play along with the fiction that they'd believed in me all along. The Harvest Home meeting went brilliantly. They loved our campaign concept, focusing on the story of their materials: reclaimed wood, organic cotton, natural dyes, rather than just the sustainability angle that every other eco-furniture company emphasized. This is exactly what we've been trying to articulate, their marketing director said, eyes bright with excitement. You really get what makes us different. After they left, Diane caught me in the hallway. That went well. I nodded, smiling. They're signing the contract tomorrow. Not just that. She lowered her voice, though in our open concept office, privacy was largely an illusion. I overheard them in the elevator. They turned down Fletcher & Partners to work with us. Fletcher & Partners, Emma. They're 10 times our size. The news sent a thrill through me. Fletcher was an established agency with a sterling reputation. The idea that clients were choosing our small, mission-driven firm over industry giants confirmed what we'd believed from the start. There was a genuine hunger for the kind of authentic, values-aligned marketing we offered. "Oh, and your mother called again while you were in the meeting," Diane added, her tone careful. She knew the whole story now. How my family had dismissed my business, left my dinner early, and then tried to climb aboard the success train after the magazine feature. I sighed. "I'll call her back later." Diane gave me a look. "You've been saying that for 3 weeks." "I know." I rubbed my temples. "It's complicated. Family always is." She squeezed my shoulder. "But sooner or later, you'll have to decide whether you want to rub their noses in your success or actually rebuild something. You can't keep them in limbo forever." She was right, of course. But every time I thought about sitting down with them, I remembered my father's dismissive tone, my mother's patronizing concern, my siblings' skeptical glances. The wound was still fresh. Later that afternoon, I was reviewing creative briefs when Tara buzzed me. "There's someone here to see you. She says she's your sister-in-law." I frowned. Lisa had never visited the office before. "Send her in." Lisa appeared in my doorway moments later, looking slightly out of place in her medical scrubs. She worked as a nurse at the same hospital where Rachel practiced dentistry. Emma, wow. She looked around my office, taking in the awards we'd already begun to accumulate. The framed magazine cover, the view of downtown. "This is incredible." "Thanks." I stood, suddenly self-conscious. "Sorry about the mess. We're still settling in." "Are you kidding? It's amazing." Her genuine enthusiasm made me smile. "I can't believe how much you've accomplished in such a short time." I gestured for her to sit. "What brings you here? Everything okay?" She settled into the chair across from me. "Yes and no, I'm here about Sunday." I frowned. "Sunday? Your mom's birthday dinner? At Vincenzo's?" Her expression turned to concern at my blank look. "She didn't tell you." It wasn't a question. We both knew the answer. No, she didn't. I leaned back in my chair, a familiar weight settling in my chest. But that's not surprising. Things have been strained. Lisa nodded, understanding in her eyes. "That's why I'm here. Mike doesn't know I came. He thinks I'm picking up my prescription during lunch." "But Emma, it's really important to your mom that you're there on Sunday." "Is it?" I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. "Because the last family gathering I hosted, no one thought it was important to stay for dessert." Lisa had the grace to look ashamed. "That was wrong. We all know it was wrong. But your parents, they're struggling with this idea that you don't need them anymore, that you've outgrown them." "I never said that. You didn't have to. It's all over the business pages. Self-made entrepreneur. Visionary marketer. The future of sustainable branding." She smiled faintly. "You're a success story, Emma, without their help, and that's hard for them to process." I considered this, turning her words over in my mind. Had I been keeping them at arm's length partly out of spite? To prove I could succeed without them? "Your mom cried when she saw the magazine," Lisa continued softly. "She was so proud, but also, I think she realized how much she'd missed, how much she'd dismissed without really seeing it. This dinner on Sunday, it's her trying to make amends in her way." I traced the edge of my desk with my finger, thinking, I don't know if I'm ready to pretend everything's fine. "Then don't pretend." Lisa leaned forward. "Be honest. Tell them how you felt. But give them a chance to hear it, Emma. They're not perfect. But they love you." After she left, I stared out my window at the city below. People moving like ants along the sidewalks, each with their own complicated lives, their own family dramas. I thought about the last few weeks, the exhilaration of our rapid success, the validation of seeing our vision resonate with clients in the industry. And yet, in quiet moments, There had been a hollow space where celebration should have been. The people who had known me longest, who should have been proudest, had been kept at bay by my hurt pride. I picked up my phone and called my mother. "Emma." Her voice was surprised, hopeful. "I was just thinking about you." "Lisa told me about Sunday," I said, deciding directness was best. "Why didn't you?" A pause. "I wasn't sure you'd want to come. You've been so busy." "Mom, I'm never too busy for your birthday. But you've been too busy for our calls, our invitations." I closed my eyes. "That's different. I needed some space after what happened." "I know." Her voice softened. "And we deserved that. But Emma, we miss you. I miss you. And I'd really love to have my whole family together for my birthday." The sincerity in her voice touched something in me. "What time on Sunday?" 7 o'clock. At Vincenzo's. I could hear the smile in her voice. "Your father's reserved the private room in the back. I'll be there," I promised. "But Mom, I don't want to pretend nothing happened." "I don't expect you to, sweetheart. We have a lot to talk about." After hanging up, I felt lighter, as if a decision had been made that I hadn't realized was weighing on me. I would go to dinner. I would be honest about how they'd hurt me. And maybe, just maybe, we could begin to build a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than their assumptions about my capabilities. That evening, as I was about to leave the office, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Emma Mitchell of Evergreen Marketing?" a woman's voice asked when I answered. "It is. How can I help you?" "This is Caroline Walters from the American Marketing Association. I'm calling because your agency has been nominated for our Rising Star Award. It's for new agencies showing exceptional innovation and impact." I gripped the edge of my desk, stunned. The AMA Awards were prestigious, the industry's highest recognition. Wow. Thank you for letting me know." "The ceremony is next month in Chicago. We'll send formal details, but I wanted to give you a heads up. It's quite an honor, the youngest agency ever nominated in this category." After the call, I sat in my silent office, the weight of it all washing over me. In less than 6 months, we'd gone from a risky venture that my family couldn't even take seriously enough to stay for dessert, to an award-nominated agency with a waiting list of clients. The contrast was dizzying. On Sunday evening, I stood outside Vincenzo's, gathering my courage. I'd chosen my outfit carefully, a deep green dress that matched our company color, professional, but still festive. Through the window, I could see my family already gathered around the table in the private dining room. My father was telling a story, his hands gesturing emphatically. My mother was laughing, her head thrown back. Mike and Rachel were there with their partners. They looked happy, comfortable. For a moment, I considered turning around and leaving. It would be easier than facing the awkwardness, the unspoken tensions, the need to protect my still tender pride. But then my mother looked up, her eyes meeting mine through the glass. Her face lit up, and she waved eagerly, beckoning me inside. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Whatever happened tonight, I was entering as a different person than I'd been at that dinner 6 weeks ago. Not because of the magazine cover or the growing business or the award nomination, though those helped, but because I'd finally realized that my worth wasn't determined by their opinion of me. "Emma!" My mother rose as I approached, pulling me into a tight embrace. "You're here." "Happy birthday, Mom," I said, returning her hug. As I looked around the table at my family's faces, some cautious, some welcoming, all watching me with new eyes, I realized that this dinner wasn't just my mother's birthday celebration. It was the beginning of a new chapter for all of us. One where I would no longer be the dreamer they humored, but the entrepreneur they respected. I took my seat at the table, ready to see where this new dynamic would lead. Vincenzo's was exactly as I remembered. Soft lighting, white tablecloths, the gentle murmur of conversations mingling with the clink of silverware. Our family had celebrated every significant event here for as long as I could recall. Graduations, engagements, promotions. The walls were lined with photographs of local celebrities and politicians who had dined there over the years. And now, in a frame near the entrance, was the Business East cover featuring me and Diane. "They put it up last week," my father said, noticing my gaze. Vincenzo was quite proud to have a celebrity among his regulars. I smiled, unsure how to respond to the hint of pride in his voice. "Hardly a celebrity." "You're too modest," Rachel interjected. "Your face is everywhere these days. One of my patients brought in the magazine and asked if that was my sister." "The Rising Star nomination is a big deal," Mike added. "Fletcher & Partners was nominated 3 years ago. They didn't win until their 5th year in business." I blinked in surprise. "How did you know about the nomination? The AMA just called me about it on Friday." Mike had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I have a colleague on the selection committee. He mentioned it." "You've been keeping tabs on me," I said, realization dawning. My father cleared his throat. "We've been following your success, yes. It's been impressive." There was an undercurrent to his words that I couldn't quite decipher. Pride, certainly. But something else, too. Regret, perhaps? Or just the awkwardness of admitting he'd been wrong. "Emma," my mother said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "Before we order, I want to say something." She glanced around the table, including everyone in her next words. "What happened at your dinner, the way we left, the things we said, it wasn't right. We owe you an apology." A tense silence fell over the table. I held my breath, waiting. My father shifted uncomfortably, then met my gaze directly. "Your mother's right. We didn't give your business the respect it deserved. We treated it like another passing interest. When we should have supported you," Rachel added quietly. "It hurt," I admitted, my voice steadier than I expected. "I worked so hard on that dinner, on planning how to tell you about something that mattered deeply to me. And you couldn't even stay for dessert." "The soufflés," my mother murmured, regret evident in her eyes. I nodded. "They collapsed. Just like my hope that you might finally see me as capable." Mike winced. "We've always known you were capable, Em. We just worried." "No," I interrupted gently. "You didn't worry. You dismissed. There's a difference." I looked around at their faces. These people who had shaped me, for better and worse. "You never took my ideas seriously. Never believed I could succeed on my own terms. And the worst part is, I'm not even sure why. What did I ever do to make you think so little of my abilities?" "It wasn't about your abilities," my father said after a long moment. "It was about protecting you." I frowned. "Protecting me from what? Following my passion? Building something meaningful?" "From failing," he replied simply. "From disappointment. From the harsh realities of business that I've seen destroy people." He rubbed his forehead, suddenly looking older than his years. "When you mentioned starting a company, all I could think about was how devastating it would be if it didn't work out. Especially after Stephen, after everything you'd been through. I didn't want to see you hurt again. So instead, you hurt me yourselves," I said, the realization sharp and clear. "By not believing in me." A heavy silence fell over the table. Lisa reached over and squeezed my hand supportively. "We were wrong," my mother said finally. "We've always been so proud of your creativity, your passion, but we underestimated your resilience, your business acumen. And for that, I am truly sorry." My father nodded in agreement. "I've spent my career helping businesses succeed. I should have offered that help to you, instead of assuming you'd fail. I took a sip of water, gathering my thoughts. I didn't come tonight to make you feel guilty. I came because despite everything, you're my family. And I want you to be part of my life. My whole life, including my business. We want that too, my mother said quickly. But things need to change, I continued. I need you to see me as I am, not as the dreamy, impractical daughter you've always thought me to be. I'm building something important, something successful, and I need to know that you respect that. My father reached across the table, an uncharacteristically vulnerable gesture from a man who rarely showed emotion. We do respect it, and we're proud of you, Emma. More than you know. For the first time, I believed him. Not because of the words, but because of the way he said them, without qualification or condescension. The waiter arrived to take our orders, breaking the intensity of the moment. As we settled into the familiar ritual of debating menu options and selecting wines, I felt a subtle shift in our family dynamic. They asked thoughtful questions about Evergreen, about our clients and our approach. My father made suggestions about tax strategies for growing businesses, without once implying I hadn't thought of them. Rachel mentioned a contact in sustainable cosmetics who might be interested in our services. By the time dessert arrived, chocolate soufflés, my mother's quiet way of acknowledging what had been lost that night, the atmosphere had transformed. Not to perfect harmony. There were still moments of old patterns emerging, still the occasional patronizing comment quickly corrected. But there was progress. And for now, that was enough. As we said our goodbyes outside the restaurant, my mother held me longer than usual. I'm so proud of who you've become, she whispered. Thank you for giving us another chance. I nodded against her shoulder, emotions too complex for words. My father waited until everyone else had said their goodbyes, then approached me somewhat awkwardly. I was thinking, he said, hands in his pockets. Maybe I could stop by your office sometime, see what you've built, if that would be all right. I smiled, recognizing the olive branch for what it was. I'd like that, Dad. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, my mind still processing the previous night's dinner. The reconciliation wasn't perfect or complete. It would take time to fully rebuild trust. But it was a beginning. Diane arrived as I was making coffee, eyeing me curiously. So, how was the family dinner from hell? Surprisingly not hellish, I replied, handing her a mug. We talked, really talked. They apologized. And you believe them? I considered the question carefully. I believe they're trying, and right now that's enough. She nodded, accepting my answer without pushing further. That was one of the things I valued most about Diane. She understood when to probe and when to let things be. Well, speaking of trying, she said, pulling out her tablet. Wait until you see the final campaign mock-ups for Harvest Home. The team outdid themselves. We spent the morning reviewing the mock-ups, making minor adjustments, planning the rollout. It was creative, purposeful work, the kind I'd always dreamed of doing. By lunchtime, we had a campaign we were both proud of, one that would serve our client well while staying true to our values. As we were wrapping up, Tara knocked on my office door. Package for you, she said, setting a small box on my desk. After she left, I opened it curiously. Inside was a perfect miniature soufflé made of blown glass, catching the light in iridescent swirls. A card nestled beside it read simply, "Some things don't collapse. Love, Mom and Dad." I placed the glass soufflé on my desk beside the framed magazine cover, two symbols of a journey that had just begun. Outside my window, the city hummed with possibility. My phone buzzed with client requests, my inbox filled with opportunities, my calendar packed with meetings. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely at home in my own skin. A woman who had proven herself not just to others, but more importantly, to herself. That evening, as I locked up the office, I paused to look around at what we'd built in such a short time. The awards already lining our reception area, the growing team, the client work that reflected our values. My family had left before dessert that night, but they hadn't seen the last of me. No one had. This was just the beginning.